Hey PowerWatts riders, Coach Mark here again with workout number 3 as part of our PowerWatts home program. Today's workout is called Power Surge. So make sure you guys go on to my report, get the workout files that you need loaded up for your devices, get everything dialed in, and you can see the countdown timer. We're going to be starting off in 35 seconds. So I want to make sure that everybody can sync the starts of their workouts, whether you're using a smart trainer or a home trainer or a watch, whatever you're using. Let's try to sync it up. So if you need more time, put it on pause, and then we're going to get started in 20 seconds. Okay, so we're going in 10 seconds, guys. So hopefully everyone's on the bike spinning their legs a bit here. And 3, 2, 1, and we are underway. So we are doing workout number 3, Power Surge. Many elements of workout 1, which was called RPM Mania, and workout 2, that was called the Hour of Power, are going to appear in this workout as well. A lot of the skills that we developed in those 2 workouts. If you haven't had a chance to do those ones yet, I suggest you go back, grab workout 1 or grab workout 2, get those done, and then come back here to workout 3. So fantastic. So I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing today, guys. We're going to be working on acceleration. We're going to be doing some seated accelerations. We're going to be doing some standing accelerations. So at the beginning of the workout, we're actually going to practice just that skill of sitting and accelerating. Bam, 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 bam. Bringing that cadence up to bring that power up quickly. And then we're going to practice standing accelerations where you get up out of the saddle, give a couple hard pedal strokes just to spike up those watts. And the techniques that you guys can use to improve your ability to quickly increase the power on a seated or a standing acceleration. Then we're going to extend that to full 30-second accelerations. Like the drills at the beginning, there's only going to be 5-second accelerations just to work that technique. But then we're going to extend that to 30-second surges, where I'm going to ask you for the first 5 seconds to really quickly accelerate above the target that's indicated, and then after the 5 seconds, slowly settle into the indicated target. But to make things a little bit more challenging, before each of the 30-second surges, you guys are going to hold an endurance power for a 2-minute period of time. So you're going to be holding a steady power like 80%, 100%, 90%, powers like that, and then you're going to go right into the surge. Additionally, the surges, the 30-second ones, some of them are going to be done sitting and some of them are going to be done standing. So it'll be interesting to contrast. We have 2 things that you guys can contrast. The difficulty of the sitting surges versus the difficulty of the standing surges, and you can contrast the difference of difficulty of the 30-second surge after, say, riding at 80% compared to the difficulty of the 30-second surge riding at 100%. Many riders, of course, are going to find the 30-second surge more difficult after riding at 100% for 2 minutes. But you might be surprised. Some of you might say, oh yeah, the 30-second surge, regardless what the lead-up power is, it's not too bad because I can get anything done for 30 seconds. However, I find it much harder standing, or I found it much harder sitting. So we'll see what that experience is for you guys. So we're about to come up to our first little pace increase as part of our warm-up here. So we're going to go to 70% watts. Those of you guys at home without power, just like a 5, 6 out of 10 effort maybe. And we're going to go to a slightly higher cadence, so 95 to 115 on the RPM. So let's bring the power up, let's bring the cadence up. And anywhere between 95 and 115, whatever's comfortable for you. If you're comfortable at those high cadences, go closer to the 115. If you really don't like the high cadence, no problem. Just try to go to like 95, 96 on the RPM. So we're going to do this for a minute, and then for the remainder of our warm-up, we're going to be alternating 1 minute at a slightly higher power, 1 minute at a slightly lower power. And the slightly higher power, some of them are going to be done at high cadence like you're doing now. Some of them are going to be done at slightly lower cadences like it's going to happen on the next one. And this warm-up is going to actually give you guys a feel of what the final drill is going to be like. The final drill, you guys are going to be alternating a lower power and a higher power. And on the higher powers, you're going to have lower cadence targets and higher and slightly higher cadence targets along the way. So we're about to go down to 60%, so let's ease it down to 60%. Still, and for those of you guys at home, very comfortable effort here. You don't want to be exerting too hard if you don't have the power to guide. You keep it nice and comfortable. Choice RPM right now. And at that drill at the end, what we're going to do, we're going to completely switch, since most of the workout is going to be based on practicing quick accelerations, practicing surges. We're going to do a longer effort with some variability, and we're going to simulate as if you're on a hill. So at the end, I'm going to ask you guys to bring those cadences down a little bit. Those of you at home with smart trainers that you can adjust the resistance, or even if you have a regular trainer, if you have a knob that you could turn to increase the resistance, let's increase the resistance on that final drill. I'll give you guys a heads up before that drill to do that again. Okay, so we're coming up to our next little pace increase. This time we're going to go to 80%. So maybe 7 out of 10 for those of you guys without the power. But this time low on the RPM. So let's go 60 to 80 on the RPM. Those of you that prefer to stand up, feel free to go ahead and stand up at this point just to warm things up. Now, what we're also doing with today's workout is this warm-up and the final drill is going to get you guys ready for workout number 4. Because workout number 4, we're going to be doing exercises where you're going to be alternating a higher power and a lower power under different conditions for different lengths of time. So you can think about the experience during this warm-up and the experience during the cool-down and say, okay, that's what I can expect in workout number 4 when that workout comes out. And again, I'll remind you guys of that during the cool-down so that way you can try to keep these ideas fresh in your mind. So we're at the low cadence, we got another 10 seconds, and then we go back down to 60%. The 60% we want it to be pretty comfortable. So even if you guys don't have the power at home, just go to back to a pretty comfortable effort. All right, fantastic. Good stuff. So if you guys take a look at the workout profile on the bottom, so after the warm-up, those first 2 exercises, that's where I was talking that we're going to practice your seated acceleration and your standing acceleration, where you're going to be riding at a steady 70% watts, and then you're going to kick it up for 5 seconds to 135% or more. You can go way over 135% if you want. The key is the feeling of that 5-second acceleration. And the first block is going to be done, all of them are going to be done sitting, and the second block, all of them are going to be done standing. And the feel is very important. So we got to try to find that gear that gets you guys dialed in so that you could do that acceleration for 5 seconds to 135% or way more and have it feel easy. You know, it's like it comes naturally to accelerate because you found the right gear. All right, guys, so now we're kicking it up to 90%. So 90%, slightly higher on the cadence. So 95 to 115 on the RPM. And now you guys are, those of you at home, maybe a 7.5 out of 10 on the effort if you don't have the power. So that's going to be one of the keys of that first exercise, to find the gear, to find the technique that makes the initial acceleration feel easy, that it comes naturally. And then in the second exercise, you're going to do that 5-second acceleration for the first 5 seconds of the 30 seconds, and then settle into the pace. That way we practice that quick acceleration. There's several practical applications for that. I'll tell you guys about that in just a moment. I'll let you focus here. We just got another 10 seconds at the slightly higher cadence at 90%, and then we're going to go down to 60% for 1 minute. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, and let's bring it down to 60%. Okay, so, and again, those of you at home, nice and comfortable here at 60%. Our last 2 1-minute pace increases here, we're going to be going to 95%. That one's going to be at low cadence, and we're going to be going to 100% back up at the high cadence. So just to bring back some pointers, some reminders that we learned in the first 2 workouts of our home program, when you guys are working at the lower cadence, you have the 2 options. Well, you have more than 2 options, but the 2 options we discussed was the first one is you slide back a bit on the saddle and you focus on fully extending the leg. You're extending the leg a little bit more to fully engage those upper thigh muscles during the effort. The second option is to slide forward on the saddle a little bit and let your weight fall into the pedals instead of falling into the handlebars. That way you push with your strength and your weight. Okay, so we're going to go to 95% now. So 3, 2, 1, and up we go. So either slide forward a bit on the saddle and let your weight fall into the pedals, or slide back on the saddle and really focus on that full extension of the leg as you're pushing. So 95%, probably an 8, 7.5, 8 out of 10 for those of you guys at home without the power. So those two techniques I mentioned aren't the only two, but you know, if you want to experiment, you could do a little bit on the front of the saddle, a little bit on the back of the saddle to contrast the difference in feel. It really depends on where your strengths are in your legs, which tactic that you're going to prefer, or you might prefer something in between the two. So we got 15 seconds remaining, and then we're going to go down to 60% for a minute, like we've been doing the last couple drills here, or last couple reps. So all the way, guys. So 3, 2, 1, and let's bring it down to 60%. Fantastic. And our final minute of the warm-up, we're going to go to 100% watts. Let's say an 8, 8.5 out of 10 maybe for those of you guys without power. And we're going to do 95 to 115 on the RPM. So we gave 3 slightly higher RPM techniques that you guys can play around with in the previous 2 workouts. So the first one was to think about sliding a bit more forward on the saddle. The second technique was to think about dropping your toes a little bit more. That gives you better access to the top of the pedal stroke and the bottom of the pedal stroke. So the top of the pedal stroke is like, say, from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and the bottom is from like 4 to 7 o'clock. And the final element was to imagine like there's a magnet between your butt and the saddle. So you stay locked down, there's very little rocking in the upper body, and your focus is pistoning on the legs. So let's try that here, guys. So let's go up to 100%, slide forward on the saddle a little bit, dip those toes down just a little bit, and create that anchor, that magnet between your butt and the saddle, so that there's very limited movement in the upper body. Something that might help also is to think about tucking your bum a little bit like a scared dog. When you tuck your bum, that usually reinforces that contact between your hips and the saddle. Okay, so at effort level 8, 8.5 out of 10 here at the higher cadence. If you really find high cadence difficult, it might be a 9 out of 10 effort, even though we're early in the warm-up here. But then we're going to take a little bit of time to get some recovery. So 20 more seconds, so focus on the quality of your pedaling here while you're sustaining that power output. And then we got a 2-minute break before our first drill. Okay, so 10 more seconds, guys. Our rider on screen here doing a great job at matching that power and cadence target. And let's back it off. So 2 minutes of recovery. Bring it way down, guys. Bring it way down 20, 30, 40% to really get some recovery after that warm-up. Good, so well done, guys. So we warmed up the slower cadence muscles. We warmed up the higher cadence muscles. Maybe we got the breathing engaged a little bit in that final minute, so the bodies are ready. So oftentimes when you guys are riding outside, let's say you're riding and maybe you're in the front of the pace line, for example, and you're already putting out a moderate power, say like 80, 90%. Then all of a sudden somebody comes by you. As that person comes by you, you might want to be able to quickly get onto that person's wheel. And then when you get onto that person's wheel, you know that the level of effort is going to go down just a little bit. Now, if you had to see the person pass you, take the time to go 3 or 4 gears harder and then slowly accelerate to get on the guy's wheel. If that guy's moving quite a bit faster than you, forget it, he's gone. So you want to have that ability to quickly respond to that gap and close that gap by increasing your cadence to increase your power. And you could do that whether you're going to be doing the acceleration sitting or whether you're going to be doing it standing. So we're going to practice giving those quick hard pedal strokes right now in this first drill sitting. So you're going to do 40 seconds at 70%, and I want you guys to hold somewhere between 80 and 100 on the RPM. And then for 5 seconds, you're going to stay sitting, and you're just going to quickly increase the cadence to bring the watts up to 135% or maybe even more. The key is the 5 seconds, you want it to feel easy, even though the watts are going up. If it feels hard, it means that you're not in the right gear. And we'll talk about that after you guys had a chance to do the first acceleration. Okay, so let's go to 70%. And I'll just mention after the first 5-second acceleration, it's not recovery. We're going to go back to that 70%, back between 80 and 100 on the RPM. So just keep in mind the gear that you're in. So settle into the power. Those of you guys at home that don't have power, do maybe a 6.5, 7 out of 10 effort. And what you think is about 80 to 90 to 100 RPM, somewhere in that range. Now we're about to do our first seated acceleration. And what I want you guys to think of on this one is just create that anchor between your butt and the saddle, and then just think about running over top of those pedals, kicking forward on the pedals, yanking back on the pedals to quickly increase the power. So 3, 2, 1, and quickly go, 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 couple more seconds, and bring it down, back down to 70%. If you dip below 70% for a few seconds, no big deal. Just bring it back up to 70% and go back between 80 and 100 RPM. Now, did you find that acceleration fast? Great. Then you maybe had the right gear. Did you find the acceleration slow? If you found it slow, go 1 gear easier right now. Did you feel like you were spinning the legs with not enough resistance underneath your feet? Well, then go 1 gear harder now to get ready for the next one. So let's try the next one again. Okay, so right now, lock your hips down to the saddle and get ready to run on the pedal. So 3, 2, 1, and run on those pedals. If you go over 135%, no problem. Okay, and back down to 70%. Okay, so now reflect again. Once you settle into 70%, reflect again. Maybe you found the gear that feels best for you at this point. And if you're still unhappy with the gear, go ahead and make another gearing adjustment to find the gear that makes it feel easiest to do that acceleration. And that's the key. If you want to quickly be able to accelerate, you don't want to be at too low of a cadence, because then it's going to be a very strength-oriented acceleration instead of a quickness-oriented acceleration. Okay, so next one coming up. So 3, 2, 1, and snap it up. Run on those pedals. Keep that hip anchor down. And let's go back to 70%. Excellent. Okay, so we got one more of these. So it's the last one that we're going to do sitting. Then we're going to take a little break, a 1-minute break, where I want everyone to bring the watts way down, loosen up the legs a bit, and then we're going to do the same exercise standing up, and we'll look at what kind of gears you might want to use for a standing acceleration. So we got 20 seconds left here before our final acceleration. So start getting into that position, maybe move forward on the saddle a little bit, lock those hips down, maybe tuck the bum a little bit, get a good grip on the bar so your upper body doesn't move too much. And here we go. Last one. 3, 2, 1, and shoot. Bring that leg speed up, up. And let's bring it back down. 1 minute of recovery. Well done, guys. Okay, so that's the technique with the seated surge, to make sure that you're not in too heavy of a gear, make sure you're not in too light of a gear, and start to apply force over a greater range of motion of that pedal stroke in order to quickly increase the cadence and quickly increase the power. So now we're going to do the same thing standing. So our lead up RPM is going to be a little bit lower. So the lead up RPM we're going to have is 65 to 85 RPM. It's a pretty big window. Where you're going to be in the window, I'm not sure, but you can experiment with it. So on this first one, maybe try to be at around 70%, because we're coming up to riding steady at 70% again, and at about 75 RPM, and we'll see how this one goes. And then when you guys do the standing, so it's 5 seconds standing on this one, don't change gears. Just stand up and quickly increase that cadence. So let's go to 70%, go to about 75 on the RPM, and the thing I want you guys to focus on, when you guys stand up on this first one, the main focus point is as your hips come up off of the saddle, make sure that your foot is at around 2 or 3 o'clock on the pedal stroke. If the foot is at 12 o'clock or one foot's at 5 or 6 o'clock, then you're not going to be able to immediately apply a force to the pedal. So as you raise your hips up off the saddle, have that foot at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and right away, apply that force to bring the watts up, and then focus on pistoning the legs. So 3, 2, 1, and stand up and shoot down on the pedals, and lift, 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 keep the leg speed up, and sit back down. Okay, and let those watts ease down to 70%. Take 10-15 seconds to settle back in at 70% here. And now reflect on how that cadence felt. Hopefully the acceleration felt quick. If it felt slow, try one gear easier. If you're spinning your legs and you had no control standing, try one gear harder. So same tactic again this time, guys. As your hips come up off of the saddle, you want one of your feet, doesn't matter which one, to be at 2 or 3 o'clock, and immediately you apply that quick down force. So let's give it a try again, guys. 3, 2, 1, and up out of the saddle, apply that force. Couple more seconds, and bring it down. Very nice. Some of you guys might be finding the standing acceleration to feel much easier than the sitting one, and some of you might find the standing one a little bit more difficult. Keep that in mind. It's always good to know where your comfort zone is in terms of what's the most optimal approach for you in a certain scenario. But we're going to continue practicing the standing. So if you haven't quite found that gear, found that beat, we got 2 more attempts at it here. So we're going to go up in 10 seconds again. So same thing, get up out of the saddle when the foot's at like 2 or 3 o'clock and focus on quick pistoning action of the legs. So here we go, guys. 3, 2, 1, and up out of the saddle, apply that force. Keep the power at 135%, maybe a little more. And let's bring it down to 70%. Excellent. And now we got one more. And something if you guys want to try on this last one, when one foot, let's say one foot is at 3 o'clock, that means the other foot's at 6 o'clock. So what you could do is the foot that's at 3 o'clock while you're pushing down, the leg that's at 6 o'clock, you could think about driving up the knee. And that creates a 2-directional force to the pedals. And that'll help bring those watts up a little bit quicker. So you could try that one on this last one here. Then we got a 2-minute break. So hold that steady 70%. Hopefully you're happy with your gear. And get ready. 3, 2, 1. And push down and drive up the rear knee. And then keep it up. And bring it down for 2 minutes. Good stuff, guys. So there we just wanted to practice how to get out of the saddle properly when you do those accelerations. The way that you get out of the saddle makes a big difference. Oftentimes we see when riders are outside and they transition from sitting to standing, they momentarily stop applying force to the pedal strokes. And what happens is if you have somebody on your wheel, especially if you're going up a very slight hill, if the person up front stands up and doesn't immediately apply force to the pedal, his bike might kind of kick back a little bit. And if the bike kicks back, then your front wheel, if you're behind, your front wheel might knock into that guy. Or if you're in front, you might affect the rider behind you. So we don't want that. So as you guys get up out of the saddle, keep that in mind. Get that weight, get that force into the pedals right away by making sure that one foot's at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. And if you want to accelerate, of course, you're going to apply a lot of force. If you don't want to accelerate, which maybe we could practice a little bit later, then you just apply a force to the pedals, say just your body weight like we practiced in the last workout, and that'll be enough to sustain your pace without your bike slowing down. Okay, guys, so now we're going to be doing surges here, 30-second surges. We have 6 of them, and each 30-second surge has a lead-up period of 2 minutes at a slightly lower power output than what we've practiced thus far on the surges. So the first one is going to be 2 minutes at 80%, followed by 30 seconds at 135. And the first one is 30 seconds sitting. So as you lead up at 80%, you can go to that RPM that you felt most comfortable with before on the seated surge practice, and then use that to start off your 30-second surge to quickly and easily kick up the watts. Okay, so we're about to go up to 80% here, guys. So 3, 2, 1, and let's go up to 80%. So now the difference here is we've practiced the first 5 seconds of the surge. Now we're going to have to do it for an entire 30 seconds. So I want you to take the first 5 seconds and I want you to do them in the way we've just practiced in those first 2 drills. But after about 5 seconds, knowing that you have to sustain this effort for a full 30 seconds, you're going to have to make some adjustments. You're likely going to have to bring your power down just a little bit, and you're going to have to adjust those gears. You'll probably have to go into harder gears in order to sustain the effort longer. Those of you guys at home that don't have power output, right now be, at a 6, 7 out of 10 effort, And then when we do this surge, by the end of the 30 seconds of this first one, you want to maybe be at like an 8.5 or 9 out of 10. You don't want to be maxed out at a 10 out of 10 effort. So after that quick acceleration, even if you don't see watts on your screen, make sure that you bring the effort level down a little bit so that we can sustain this across the 6 30-second efforts that we have today. Okay, so we got 1 minute to go. Right now you could be at whatever cadence you want. You might want to pedal slower for a bit, faster for a bit. You might stand up for a bit just to loosen up the muscles, whatever feels comfortable. But about 15, maybe 15 seconds before, go to the RPM that felt most comfortable for the surge, the seated surge practice that we practiced earlier. So, maybe somewhere between 80 and 100 RPM, depending on what you found most comfortable. So you're going to give that quick acceleration like you did. Imagine like you're running on the pedals. So lock the hips down, run on the pedals to quickly increase the power. And then after about 5 seconds, and I'll call out when 5 seconds has passed, you might want to go 1 gear harder, 2 gears harder, 3 gears harder, depending on your needs. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, and kick up the effort. Kick up the effort. Hold it. Okay, and now start to adjust the gears and ease the watts down, trying to get to that 135% target, settling in at whatever cadence you want, but you just got to be sitting. So some of you might find this more comfortable higher, some of you might find it more comfortable lower on the cadence, but sitting all the way. 10 more seconds, guys. This is not easy, so the level of effort is going to be up there, definitely. 8.5, 9 out of 10 effort. Okay, and now let's ease it down. So 1 minute and really recover for the minute, guys. So you got 1 minute to regroup. Excellent. So great first drill. So on our second one, we have the same structure. We have a 2-minute lead up with a 30-second surge, but we've changed 2 parameters on you guys here. The first one is the 2-minute lead up is now at 100%. That's pretty challenging. Those of you guys at home, that's like an 8.5 out of 10 effort rate for the 2 minutes before we do the surge. And the 30-second surge this time is going to be standing up. So during the 2 minutes at 100%, go to whatever cadence you want, say for the first minute and a half, minute 45 seconds, but then right before you stand up, get to that cadence that you felt most comfortable to initiate that standing acceleration. So we're going to be going in 10 seconds, guys. Okay, so just take a breath, loosen the face, neck, shoulders, elbows, full exhalation to open up those lungs a little bit here. Okay, and now up to 100% watts. After holding 100% for about 30-45 seconds, the level of effort is going to go up with the 30-second surge that we just did is fresh in your legs. So it's going to make the 100% feel a little bit harder than you might expect. And those of you guys at home, 8, 8.5 out of 10 right now. Choice body position, choice cadence. So very nice. So just think about how it feels in your legs. And one of the things you want to do in your mind here, as the 100% gets more challenging, is even though the power is going up in the last 30 seconds, I want you to be excited thinking about it. Be excited thinking about that final 30 seconds because of that positional change. Even though the watts are higher, it's going to really change the feeling in your body. And the change of feeling in your body is going to be very welcome, actually. There's a saying in general endurance sports and cycling and in running, when something gets very difficult, before you slow down, accelerate. Because the mere fact of accelerating solicits different muscle fibers and makes you pedal differently or run differently in the case of running. It changes your running mechanics or your cycling mechanics to access different muscles. And all of a sudden, it might help you feel a little bit better or at least not feel as bad. So we have 35 more seconds before we're going to do our standing surge. So in your head, create some excitement around this 30-second standing acceleration that's coming up. So just like we did on the first 30-second one, the first 5 seconds, I want you guys to kick it up quickly, this time standing up, well over 135% or a bit over 135%, and then settle it in for the last 25 seconds. And that's going to definitely involve some gear changes when you're standing up. So get to that most comfortable cadence from the first drill. Okay, get ready, guys. 3, 2, 1, and stand up with the foot at 2 or 3 o'clock. Apply the force on the pedals, increase that cadence. Okay, now start to make the gearing adjustments to settle into a sustainable cadence. And you might adjust your body position. Maybe you're on the hoods now and you might want to switch the drops. or maybe you're in the drops, you might want to switch to the hoods. But if you got something that's working, let's keep it up for another 10 seconds. 8.5 out of 10 effort, 9 out of 10 effort at this point for those of you guys that don't have the power at home. So 3, 2, 1, and 1 minute recovery and bring it way down. Wow. So what an exercise. So we changed 2 parameters. We had the higher lead up power and we had the standing. So just reflect. How did that feel relative to the first one? How much harder did it feel because you had that 100% lead up? Or how much easier was the 30-second surge because you got to do it standing up instead of sitting down? Or maybe it felt a lot harder. So just think about that. And now we're going to continue with the next one. The next one, again, we're changing 2 parameters. Now the lead up power this time is at 90%, so 2 minutes at 90%, and the 30-second surge is going to be done seated again. And then we'll see how this compares in difficulty to the one just prior. So we're going to be starting this up in about 10 seconds. The good news, after this one, you have 2 minutes to really recoup before we jump back into more surges. So let's build those watts up to 90%. So choice body position, choice cadence. And any of you guys that want to stand up for a bit at 90% here, sure, absolutely, go ahead, stand up for a bit. You know, move that body around on the saddle. Even those of you guys that are still sitting, you might slide forward, slide back, try different cadences until you find what's just right. And then, again, about 15 seconds before the seated surge, try to get to that cadence that felt most comfortable to accelerate. That first 5-second acceleration, do it via cadence, via pedaling faster, and then adjust your gears to sustain the effort for the full 30 seconds. So you can start to ask yourself right away, how does 90% feel relative to 100%? Those of you guys at home that don't have the power, like this, you want to be closer to a 7.5 out of 10 effort. It's not like a 5 out of 10 effort. It's pretty close to the 100%, but obviously just a little bit less on the effort side. Okay, and those of you guys with the power, how does this feel compared to the 100% lead up? And it's possible it feels just as hard because you still haven't recovered from that 30-second surge. So we'll see. In the meantime, do a quick spot check of your body. Relax your face, neck, shoulders, elbows. Make sure that your breathing is controlled. We don't want any panting at this point. We just want good quality pedaling in whatever position and cadence you want. So now start to think about this acceleration that's coming up. It's a seated acceleration. Are you happy with your gear? Do you need to go into an easier gear or harder gear to get ready for the surge? If so, do that now. Make the gear an adjustment. Okay, and we're going to be going in 10 seconds. And the first 5 seconds, I want to see you guys up over 135%. Those of you guys at home, bring yourselves up to a 9 out of 10 effort by the end. So 3, 2, 1, and kick it up, kick it up. Spin those legs, get that cadence up to get the power. All right, so that's the first 5 seconds done. So adjust the gears. Settle in to a sustainable cadence while staying sitting. I know some of you want to stand up here, but stay seated. Work the seated power output here for another 10 seconds. And then we got a 2-minute recovery period, guys. Some really solid efforts. This is not easy. 30 seconds at 135%. And back it off. Good. Well done, guys. Okay, so we got the first 3 surges done. We got the 2 of them were done sitting, and 1 of them was done standing. Think to yourself, which of those 3 was the easiest? Maybe the first one, because you were fresh. Maybe not the first one, because you had to do it the surge seated. Maybe you found the second one the easiest, because you got to do the surge standing. So just reflect on that. And now on our next 3, the way we're going to break it down is we have the same structure in terms of the lead-up powers. So the first one, or the next one that we're about to do, the lead-up power is at 80%. The one after that, the lead-up power is at 100%. And the last one, the lead-up power is at 90%. And we still have the 30-second surges. The change this time is 2 of the surges are going to be done standing. So the one we're just about to do, and the one after, and the final one. And then the middle one is going to be done sitting. And I'll give you guys advance warning. Those of you guys that are really dependent on your standing abilities to do the surges, that second one is going to be very difficult because you're going to have to lead up to it. You're going to have to lead up to it already at 100%, and then sit down to do that surge. So the 100% is going to create a certain amount of fatigue, and you're going to have to work through that fatigue on the seated surge. Those of you guys that prefer seated surges, who knows? Maybe you'll find the second one that's coming up to be the most comfortable. It's always interesting to take note of what feels best for you, so when you can choose whether you sit or stand or pedal fast or pedal slow, you know where to go. You know what feels best and is most efficient for your body. All right, guys. So the 2-minute rest is already done. Where'd the time go? It's like a time warp here whenever you're doing a PowerWatts home workout. So we're about to go up to 80% watts for 2 minutes. So 3, 2, 1, and let's bring it up. And those of you guys without the power, let's go with maybe a 7 out of 10 effort or so. Those of you guys with the power, get to that 80%. You know, it might take about 15, 20 seconds to settle in, but once you're settled in, challenge yourself to do this as steady as you can with that power output. Excellent. So, our first surge, or our next surge, 30 seconds standing, 135%. Now this one, if you want to make your acceleration even more explosive, you could try the 2-directional force of the pedals like we practiced right at the end of the standing accelerations earlier. So when you get up out of the saddle, one foot at the 2 to 3 o'clock position, the other foot will be maybe at like the 6 o'clock position. So you drive down on the front leg and you drive the rear leg upwards. You drive the rear knee up towards the handlebars. And that 2-directional force, you could do it for the first 2 to 3 pedal strokes if you want even. That'll bring the watts up a little bit quicker. The cadence will go up a little bit quicker, and then you can adjust the gears. Another little trick for the standing is oftentimes when we stand, we sway a lot left and right. So when you're about to do this standing here for the first 5 seconds, don't sway your upper body at all. Just keep your upper body super steady and just focus on pistoning your legs. And then after 5 seconds, when you adjust the gears, then you could start to go back to your normal swaying standing style. But you'd be amazed, if you don't sway for the first few seconds, those watts are going to go up much quicker. There's going to be less energy wasted moving left and right. So get ready, guys. Get into your standing lead-up gear here. And 3, 2, 1, and drive down and up on the pedal. Driving up, down and up, down and up, down and up. Keep those upper bodies steady, 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 steady. Okay, now adjust the gears. Ease the power output down. Ease the effort down just a little bit and settle into a sustainable effort. And now whatever standing position you want, you might be swaying a bit more left and right. Those of you guys at home, 8.5, 9 out of 10 effort here on the standing. Work on good quality pedaling in the standing position. So 3, 2, 1, and let's back it off. 1 minute of recovery. Good, well done, guys. So just think about how that felt. Probably felt a little bit easier given that you had the 2-minute recovery period and the lead-up power was 80%, which is definitely a little bit more comfortable than the one that we're about to do. But I'm excited for this next one, guys. We got a 2-minute lead-up at 100% and the seated acceleration to 135%. So this is going to be a real challenge for those of you guys that prefer to do your surges standing up. Those of you guys that prefer to do the surges sitting down, it's also going to be difficult because of that 2-minute lead-up period at 100%. Okay, so we're going in 10 seconds, guys. So just take a quick and full exhalation here. Set up good breathing rhythms for the start of our next effort that's coming up. All right, so let's go up to 100%. 8.5 out of 10 effort. If you don't have power, we want you to be really working here during this 2 minutes lead up. And then we got the 30-second seated surge. Those of you guys that love to stand on the surges, the trick, if you have to surge sitting and you prefer to stand, is to use those high RPM tactics like I described before, sliding forward on the saddle, dipping the toes, and really anchoring those hips down into the saddle. when you're more forward on the saddle and your toes are down, it recreates a little bit more that standing position. So you might feel like you can get a little bit more force down into the pedals. Those of you guys who are more strength oriented, you're not necessarily going to slide forward on the saddle. You might just use that trick of fully extending the legs, really engaging all the strength and power of your hips and of your quad muscles in the front of your thighs. So we'll see what happens here, guys. There's a saying of riding on the rivet. So on the rivet, that's when you're basically as far forward as you can go on the saddle. And some of you guys might end up in that position for this 30-second effort here, and that's okay. Figure out what works. So we have 35 seconds to go. Hopefully everyone's at an 8.5 out of 10 effort. Some of you guys with the power on screen might find it a little bit harder than 8.5 out of 10 right now. But remember, be excited to accelerate. It's going to change the muscles. It's going to change the experience. And you got to welcome some change here. So we got 15 seconds. So adjust the gear. Get into that gear that's going to allow you to have the best acceleration. And we're about to do this, folks. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, and run on those pedals for the first 5 seconds. Kick those watts up. Get it nice and high. Okay, so adjust the gears. You might keep pedaling fast. You might bring the RPM down a bit, but let's keep that effort level. Those of you at home, 9.5 out of 10 if you don't have power. Those of you with power, hang on to that 135. So 10 more seconds, guys. Pedal a little bit faster in the gear you're in to resist the urge to slow down. We're almost there. So 3, 2, 1, and back it off. 1 minute recovery. Wow, what an effort. Great work from everybody. And those of you that really don't like sit-in surges, congratulations on putting out that level of effort. It's really worth practicing because oftentimes when you're outside and you want to surge, you don't have time to get up out of the saddle. You got to do it sitting. So well done. Now we have one left. So those of you that like standing, you're going to like this next one. We have 2 minutes at 90% with our final 30-second surge to 135%. It's going to be done standing up. After this, you guys have a 3-minute recovery. But if you look at the workout profile on the bottom, this is not the last drill of the day. So I don't want you guys to go and max out this 30-second effort. Go to that 135%, maybe a little bit more, but save a little juice in the legs because we still got a 10-minute drill after. So let's go to 90% watts for 2 minutes. I'm sure everyone's happy that the lead-up power is a little bit lower. Those of you guys at home, 7.5 to 8 out of 10 effort here on our 2-minute lead-up. And then we have our 30-second standing surge. So while you guys are doing the lead-up, I'll just remind you, this is our last standing surge here, so I'll just remind you of some of the standing surge tricks. As you guys get up out of the saddle, make sure that one of your feet is at the 2 to 3 o'clock position to immediately apply a strong downforce, and the foot that's at the back, drive that knee upwards to apply 2 directional force to the pedals, and you could do that for the first few pedal strokes. And as you guys do that, limit the amount of left to right sway in your shoulders. Keep your shoulders and your upper body in general as steady as possible, so all the action is coming from the legs. That's going to direct all that force down into the pedals. Then after about 5 seconds, adjust the gears. 1 gear, 2 gear, 3 gears harder as need be. It depends on what cadence you're most comfortable with. And then you can go back to your normal standing position with a slightly more sway. But it's amazing how much those techniques will assist you in quickly increasing the watts. And then to sustain the watts, you got to go back to the technique that works best for you. Okay, so 35 seconds before we do our final 30-second standing surge here. Hopefully everybody's at home's at an 8 out of 10 effort here, maybe a little bit more because of the accumulation of fatigue. So take a look at your cadence, take a look at the RPMs, or think about the feel of the RPM. Is this the right gear to initiate that standing acceleration? So get into that right gear if you're not there already. So we're going in 10 seconds. So get ready, last chance to practice all these techniques. So big effort here, guys. So 3, 2, 1. Up out of the saddle, drive down, drive up, keep those upper bodies steady. Piston, quicker. Okay, adjust the gears. 1, 2, 3 gears harder. You might even go another gear harder right now. Settle into a rhythm that you can sustain. Those of you guys at home, 9.5 out of 10 effort if you don't have power. So we got 10 more seconds like this, guys. So keep the effort up. Keep the effort up. Again, pedal faster to resist the urge to slow down. Right now, pedal a little faster. Pedal a little faster. Go, 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 go. All the way, and that is it. Wow. Great surges, guys. Imagine 6 30-second surges with 2-minute lead-up periods are done. So fantastic effort. So again, just a reminder why we did such a thing. Imagine like you're riding outside, you're leading a group, or maybe you're riding alone at a decent effort, 80%, 90%, or a tempo effort, and then all of a sudden somebody passes you and you want to quickly get on their wheel. Then this is how you have to go about it. Giving that quick acceleration. If you guys are on a flat, riding at high speeds, it's better done seated. Because if you stand up, the extra wind resistance is probably going to slow you down. If you're on a very slight uphill, then in that case, you might be able to get up out of the saddle, depending on your cadence, to quickly close that gap and then settle in. And that's just one application of these surges. Who knows? Maybe instead of trying to close a gap, you're trying to create a gap against your fellow riders, your friends. You want to make them work a little bit harder, so you try to quickly create that gap. So great exercise, very well done, definitely very challenging. So hopefully you guys got some legs for what's coming next. Now what we're going to be doing next, we're going to simulate as if you're riding up a hill. Okay, so if your smart trainer or your device allows you to increase the resistance, or say put yourself on a 3 or 4% grade or something like that, go ahead and do it. So that way you're under a little bit more load for this entire 10 minutes. Riding uphill does put your legs, so when you're riding uphill, the additional resistance that's created puts your legs under stress for a greater percent of the range of motion of the pedal stroke. So if you can increase that resistance or simulate the grade for this drill, it'll make it slightly more realistic to the demands of climbing outdoors or when you're outside. So what we're going to do is we're going to be alternating between 80% and 100% for 10 minutes. So 1 minute 80%, 1 minute at 100%. All the 80% are at choice body position, choice cadence, but imagine like you're riding up a hill, so maybe use slightly lower than normal RPM. And then we're going to be alternating between 1 minute standing at 100% at 50 to 70 RPM, and then 1 minute sitting at 100% at 60 to 80 RPM. So we don't want you guys to practice spinning your legs up the hills. We want you to be working that more muscular effort. So 3 minutes rest has already gone by. We're about to go up to 80%, so you just ease yourself up to 80% now. Increase that resistance if you can, and whatever cadence you want here at 80%, and you can even stand up at the 80% if you want. One of the key goals here though is when we increase the power to 100%, we want you guys to do it with strength. Okay, so standing, if you normally stand at 70 RPM, stand at 65 RPM. You know, if you normally stand at 65 or 55 RPM, stand a little bit lower than that at like 50 RPM. And then on the sitting surges that we're going to be doing, if you normally sit going uphill at 75 RPM, try to do it at like 70 RPM, something a little bit lower. So hopefully everyone's settled in at 80%. We're looking at maybe a 7 out of 10 for those of you guys that don't have power. Then I want you on this first one to bring it up to an 8, 8.5 out of 10, and then we're going to go right back to the 7 out of 10 1 minute later. Okay, so everybody, no surge necessary. Just get up out of the saddle, bring those watts up to 100%. No need to overshoot to 100%. And just sway that body left and right, practicing the weight transfer into the pedals. This is something that was part of the hour of power workout where you guys were standing for 2 minutes continuously. So just practice getting that weight left and right. You might have to apply a little bit of force, but try to use your body weight to help. Okay? You can be standing in a slightly more upright position with your hands on the hoods. Maybe your hands are on the drops and you're a little bit more bent over. If what you're doing now is working, great, keep it up. If it's a bit more uncomfortable than you'd like, just try moving the hips forward or back or lifting the shoulders up or down to see how it feels. Okay, so we got 15 more seconds. And then it's not recovery. We're going to go down to 80%. And when we go down to 80%, you could stay standing if you want, but I think most of you will probably sit down. Okay, so let's go down to 80%. If you do sit down, you'll have to go into easier gears. If you stay standing, maybe you could stay in the same gear here. It's up to you. But regardless what you're doing now at 80%, the next minute is sitting at 100%, and we're going to try to do 60 to 80 on the RPM. So you can think about those low RPM tricks, either sitting forward on the saddle and really letting your weight fall into those pedals, so not putting too much pressure on the hands, on the handlebars, or sliding a bit back on the saddle, maybe even dropping the heel a little bit against the resistance of the uphill and fully extending into those pedals to get the full force down, the full force of your muscle strength down into those pedals. Okay, so we're going to do that in about 10 seconds. So sitting at 100%, 60 to 80 on the RPM. Okay, so let's start to build up those watts, and 60 to 80 on the RPM, 8.5 out of 10 effort here, guys. If you don't have the power, and really muscle it out. If you found what works best for you, just stick to it. If you're not sure, try the back position on the saddle, try the front position on the saddle, see what you think. In our last workout, the Hour of Power, we tried different hand positions as well. So maybe your hands are on the hoods right now. Maybe you could try your hands on the bar tops, or maybe you are on the bar tops. You could try your hands on the hoods to see how that changes the pressure in your legs. Whenever you move your upper body, it changes the experience of pressure in your legs. It might be in a positive change, or it might make it harder. I don't know, so play around with it. So we got 10 seconds here. Then we're going to go back to 80%. So back to about a 7 out of 10 effort. So 3, 2, 1, and back to 80%. Excellent. Okay, so now you guys are aware of the rhythm that we're going to be trying to sustain for our drill. Okay, so one standing pace increase, one sitting pace increase, but all of them trying to work a little bit more muscularly. So what we have left, we have 3 more pace increases to 100%. We have 2 of them standing, so the next one and the last one, and the one right in between, that one's going to be sitting. So hopefully you're finding a little bit of recovery at 80%. When you ride at 80%, recovery doesn't come immediately, but maybe after riding for 40, 45 seconds, you will be able to regroup mentally and physically and get ready for our next effort. Okay guys, so we're going in 10 seconds. So slightly lower than normal RPM standing. Okay, so here we go. 3, 2, 1, up out of the saddle, get the weight down to the pedals right away. Start to sway left and right. Experiment with the body position and the level of effort, probably upwards of a 9 at this point. Maybe 8.5 for some of you that prefer the standing position compared to the sitting position. Great, fantastic work. So we got 30 more seconds on this standing, and then we go back to 80%, our 7 out of 10 level of effort. Okay guys, just do a quick spot check here. Relax the face, neck, shoulders, elbows. Try to regain a smooth and steady breathing rhythm. We don't want to be panting at 100% watts. You want to try to make this level of this power gradually feel more comfortable here. So 3, 2, 1, and down to 80%. Okay, so we're holding 80% watts for a minute. Again, imagine like you're on an uphill. So if you are on an uphill, if you're on a simulated, say 4% uphill here, you can go into the easier gears and spin the legs if you want. If you don't have any way to control the resistance, then I would suggest you try to keep the RPMs a little bit lower to simulate the demands of the uphill. So great work on that last standing one. Our next one, sitting, 60 to 80 on the RPM. It's the last time that we're going to be sitting today at 100%. I'd encourage everybody to try to stay on target, or let's say a 9 out of 10 effort for those at home without the power, and try to make it feel as comfortable as you can. It's not necessarily going to be comfortable, but try to find a way to make it feel as comfortable as possible. So 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So 60 to 80 in the RPM window here, 100% on the watts, real strength-oriented effort. Our rider on screen here has got that 100% watts, settling into right around 70 on the RPM. So solid effort from our rider here. And hopefully you at home have found that position that's working. And as long as it's working, just keep it the same. And convince yourself that what you're doing now is comfortable. Sometimes you have to play some mental gymnastics with yourself to improve as a cyclist. So convince yourself that this is comfortable and that you could sustain it. So we got 15 more seconds before we go down to 80%. I want everyone to be real vigilant at the 80% to not drop below. And those of you at home without power, go down to like a 7.5 or 8 out of 10 effort at this point. Okay, so down to 80% or 7.5, 8 out of 10. Great, so that one's done. The 1 minute sitting at 100% is in the books. And we have one effort to go, our final effort of the day. You guys have been working really hard for the last 55 minutes. And now this last minute, this is like the cherry on top. This is the icing on the cake. This is where you guys can really open it up. So if you're really having a hard time here, just try to get to that 100%, and that'll really get you that intended fitness benefit. If you guys got a little bit of extra juice, let's exert a little bit more, aiming for 100% or more on this last effort. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy our final effort. It's going to be standing up, 50 to 70 RPM range. So I don't want you guys to be standing, spinning to get to those higher watts. You got to do it with strength. So last effort of the day. So 3, 2, 1, and up out of the saddle. Get some good force down into those pedals. Work that weight transfer left and right as you figure out the gear to get the job done. And over the course of this last minute, let's bring that level of effort up and up and up. Hopefully everyone's at least at a 9 out of 10 effort right now. And maybe let's go up as high as a 9.5 out of 10 effort by the end. So great standing effort. So in our final 30 seconds now, so maybe you might switch positions. Maybe you'll lean down into those pedals a little bit more. Another little trick is if the gear that you're in, say you're at 60 RPM, see if you can bring that 60 RPM to 62, to 64, to 66. Gradually increase those RPMs. Okay, so we got 10 seconds to go, guys. So pedal a little bit faster, get a bit more force into those pedals. And this is bringing us to the end. Final efforts. 3, 2, 1, and that is it. Wow. What a solid finish. You guys can take the resistance off, loosen the knob or adjust the resistance on your smart trainer to bring it back to the simulated flat so you can get a little bit of time to recover. Wow, so what a way to finish the workout with a 10-minute simulated climb with all of that fatigue that we had in your legs from those surges that we did. That makes this last 10-minute exercise that we did a real good exercise in fatigue resistance. So let's say, for example, you hit a hill and it's right at the beginning of the workout, or right at the beginning of your ride, you might be able to hammer up that thing, no problem. But what if you get to that same hill after riding for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours? It becomes a very different climb. And so your ability to, in this case, climb well after an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours of riding is referred to as fatigue resistance. So although you guys weren't riding for a super long period of time here, we create a lot of fatigue in that first half or the first 3/4 of the workout, so that last climb really developed that fatigue resistance as if you had been riding for a longer period of time. As if you had, say, already been riding for 2 hours instead of only an hour before you got to that last climb. So fatigue resistance, as you can imagine, super important skill for any of you guys that are interested in longer duration outdoor rides, group rides, grand fondos, whatever types of events, or of course super important for any triathletes out there doing longer distance triathlon. So great workout, guys, and now we're just cooling it down. One thing I wanted to mention, I mentioned at the beginning, the warm-up, the structure of the warm-up and the structure of that last drill, we were doing lower power, higher power, lower power, higher power, lower power, higher power, and that was there definitely to build fitness, but it was also there to try to set the framework, set the tone for our next PowerWatts workout, where we're not going to be going to these really high anaerobic powers, doing 30-second surges. There are going to be some surges that are in there, but we're going to be focusing on slight alternating between slightly lower powers and slightly higher powers for the entire duration of the workout, broken up into different drills. So I'm really excited for that workout. I'll tell you all sorts of different tricks about how to improve your threshold power as part of that workout. And I really hope you guys enjoyed the workout today. If you have some time, stay on the bike and cool down a little bit longer. It's always good to add an extra cool down after doing the intense efforts that we did today. So great workout. Workout number 3, Power Surge, will be one to remember and maybe come back to in a couple weeks to try again. So thanks so much for joining in, and I look forward to the next workout.